I'm like super grown out now, and I had toned my hair with kind of like a dark silver demi-permanent dye like a while back, so that made it a little darker, but it's kind of washed out by now. But if you can see, I had gone blonde at about this time last year. I have never actually been blonde before this moment had happened. There was a time when I was in 6th grade and I had like gotten a couple other colors or whatever, but like it was like a part of my hair was blonde, like one part of my hair was blonde and like purplish, so like I don't count that. This was my first all over blonde hair situation. For pretty much all of high school and undergrad, my hair was 100% the natural color. I had not dyed it at all during that time. I grew up watching a lot of YouTubers like Beauty K Love and Michelle Phan, who like had this super healthy, shiny, natural like Asian hair that was like long and perfect and super pretty, and they would post a lot of YouTube videos about how they took care of it. And I got really into hair care through that kind of thing, because for them, they were kind of posting all these different hair masks, all these different sort of tips and tricks to like getting your hair to be moist and like keeping it healthy and stuff. So I got super duper into that stuff. I started waiting as long as possible between showers. I was coconut oiling the ends of my hair. I was doing egg hair masks and yogurt hair masks and all these different types of like hair masks basically. And there was even like a time in which I was literally putting some like olive oil into my hair, like drenching it in olive oil so that it was super oily, and then leaving it like that for like 3 days. And like this whole entire situation, I was super duper into keeping really healthy hair. By doing all of this, I kind of put my hair on this pedestal in my head where I needed to basically, I was treating it as if it would fall out if I did anything wrong with it. So I never blow dried my hair, never ever. And if I ever needed to straighten it, or for whatever reason, it was once in a blue moon. It was barely ever. And when I did, I would drown my hair in heat protectant to make sure that I did it as like safely as possible. I had sort of convinced myself that if I did anything to damage it, like any real damage to it, and it kind of ruined the look of the hair, then kind of all of my looks and like attractiveness would be gone, which is a really stupid thing to care about in the first place. But like, remember where I was in high school. I had basically tied my looks and my image of myself to how my hair looked and how healthy it was, and that kind of indirectly tied my self-worth to my hair as well, which you know, not a great situation. My hair was actually really good during this time period though. It was super long, it was super thick and healthy and shiny. When it was styled, it looked great. Truthfully, I kept it up most of the time, and I didn't obviously style it all the time because I was so scared of like heat tools on it. But when it was styled, it looked really nice. Pretty much like all the other times it looked like meh, but like that one time that it was styled meant a lot. I had a really rough last 2 years of undergrad, specifically the spring of my junior year and all of my senior year. And not just because of COVID. COVID had kind of happened in that spring semester of my junior year, but like there was a lot of other really bad things happening in my personal life that culminated into like that one really bad time for me. There was still good things happening, but it was still like a really rough time. It kind of was like an all-time low, I guess. And it was the entire time pretty much. So it was a really long time of just being at rock bottom. Although this time was the worst for my mental health, it ended up actually being a really big transitional time for me, and I completely changed as a person. I think by the time this whole thing was done, I was a completely different person. There's a lot of changes that I could unpack, but it was so much that basically all I'll say is that I was a completely different person when that was done. It was a change for the better. I think that it's a more mature sort of change, but it was like such a big change that happened in such a small amount of time, right? That even now, like I look back at the 2019, for example, version of me and think that that person was so different, so different. And I was thinking that about 2019 when it was 2021, so that's only a 2-year difference. When I went into optometry school for my like first semester in 2021, I was that completely different person, and I would cringe so much at the memory and the thought of who I was before for whatever reason. It was just such a weird thing that I would remember all the times, like the things that I said, the things that I did, like all of that different stuff, and I would just cringe so much. And it was like all the time, like every single day, several times a day, I would be like in this weird state of like, oh my gosh, what the heck was that? You know what I mean? It was super embarrassing to know that there were people who remembered that version of me. Like there were people who knew that version of me, especially in, not even in 2019, like it was in 2021 really, that like the worst version of me came out, you know, and I hated that so many people remembered that version of me. And the worst part was, since I had graduated as that person and moved into another state, then there were a lot of people who knew me in undergrad who would only remember me to be that person because they never got to find out what I became afterwards. It was such a weird time. I literally almost like fantasized about the idea of going and telling people or like proving to people back then that I had changed. I literally would like think about it so much, about how much I wished that I could prove to them that I was a different person. You can probably tell I cannot find the words to describe that feeling. It was so weird. And that's pretty much all that I can describe it as, was just, it was a weird thing. I didn't want to be attached to that version of myself. I wanted to be separate. It was so bad that I actually felt uncomfortable with looking at Instagram pictures of myself during that time, because like I said, this was a really quick period of change, right? So I would look at these pictures from like 2021, which was like just earlier in the year, and or maybe just last year, because of the fact it was so recent, it would look exactly like me, but I knew that that was a different person. I knew that that was just a completely different person from who I had become, you know? I didn't understand that person, I didn't agree with that person, and you probably know what direction this is going in already. I was definitely thinking of changing my hair because I knew that that would be the most easy way to completely change the way that I look, so that I could really look like a separate person and therefore like kind of make myself feel like I was separate from that person, right? The issue is that in this time, I still had that really strong fear of damaging my hair, because remember, I had gone through that whole entire thing of masks and doing all this stuff to promote the healthiness of my hair. Like I really thought it was my hair that kind of made me pretty or anything like that, and that I didn't have anything else going in that department. And at this time, my hair was probably at like its peak health. It was really, really healthy. It was super duper long. Here's a picture of my graduation photos. I feel like that was a time in which my hair was, that was about this time, right? That a change was sort of taking place. Eventually, as the weirdness continued from that summer into like the early fall of my first semester at NECO, I started watching more and more Brad Mondo, which is really silly and very cliche for this type of video, but I became more and more aware of how much I had kind of put my hair on this pedestal, and how it did not deserve to be on that pedestal, right? It really wasn't supposed to be that serious. It was like kind of too unstable or fragile of a thing to hold all of my self-worth on, right? My self-worth needed to be rooted in something that was more anchoring. His videos helped me learn that hair is supposed to just be this fun thing, and it's just an extra accessory that you have, in that no matter what you do to your hair, your value and your worth stay the same throughout all of it. And that kind of started the blonde hair journey, because I had always wanted to have blonde hair at some point, ever since I was really like a little kid, right? Playing with Barbies and stuff like that. That was how young I was when I wanted to have blonde hair for the like first time, basically. But I had wanted it ever since then, you know? I wasn't really allowed to as I was growing up, and then, you know, I had that whole entire thing, and it was just something that I still had not done yet. Not to mention, since I'm half Asian, I do have pretty Asian hair, and Asian hair is really hard to bleach because it's really difficult to get it up to that, you know, like a blonde lightness, because it's so dark and very hard to remove the color from. So I had booked a salon appointment in December of 2022, where I got it like part of the way there, because I couldn't do it all in one session. And then at the beginning of my summer semester in 2022, oh my gosh, I meant December 2021, sorry. My friend Olivia, bless her, love her, she bleached my hair the rest of the way to blonde before that semester, and I was officially blonde. It took 7 hours. It was literally my friend Olivia and I on the ground of our friend's apartment. 7 hours, bless her. And let me tell you, it obliterated my hair. I could not get a brush through my hair from top to bottom once for the first 3 weeks of having blonde hair, and I was putting so much product in. I brought a tub of hair conditioner, like leave-in conditioner, to school because I had to put it in about 3 or 4 times per day, completely saturate my hair, and it would become bone dry within 2 seconds of me putting all of this product into my hair. It was the wrong tone for my skin color, and it fell out in clumps for the first 3 months of me having it. Clumps. Like, it's a surprise that I even still have this much hair that I do have. This is all of my hair for the record. It's like not that thin, but it definitely was falling out in clumps when I first dyed it, but I stuck it out because it wasn't affecting my value, it wasn't affecting my worth. It was just a fun part of, you know, just something fun, something different, right? My value was still the same, and the most important part was that I looked like a completely different person. And it was, in my opinion, it was more clear that I was a different person than I was before. It was super liberating, and I had a great summer with my blonde hair. It's starting to go away, obviously, because you can see how incredibly long my roots are. So I'm in that kind of weird spot where I'm like, should I like go back to being blonde and like bleach all of those parts again and try to get it light again? Because I mean, I already did all that with this. I don't know if I'm gonna go back to my natural color or go back to being blonde, but truthfully, I kind of want to be blonde again. I think the blonde became a symbol of that transformation taking place, and a symbol of my growth in that time, and like just a symbol of all the things I learned during that time and the things that I took with me, you know? I really do love looking nothing like the way that I used to look. I know that this video is probably not super relatable to everyone else, because I know that this was well my personal story on how becoming blonde had changed my life, and how it gave me that sort of personal validation that that transformation had taken place within me. But you know, maybe you're in the same place as I was, right? Maybe you're not totally sure where you're going, but you know for sure that you're not that person from before, and it feels weird to carry that person with you still, and you don't really know how to kind of begin that new place without feeling like you're dragging this person with you, that person being the old you. And if you're afraid of frying your hair off, maybe you will, and who cares? It's okay. It's just hair. It's just some extra detail on your flesh vessel, and the only purpose of your flesh vessel is to hold your soul so that you have an easier experience on earth, right? That was a really long video, and I tried something new, which was writing it like a script for a YouTube video. So I don't know if that made it more awkward or if it gave it more direction or anything like that. So let me know what you think. Like this video if you haven't yet, subscribe if you haven't yet, and I'll see you later. This is the cinematic mode on the iPhone 14, and wow, I mean, it's a lot of detail on the face, but it looks nice, right?